Okay, so welcome to Battle Streams of Middle Earth and to my hobby vlog number 11, I think. I'm recording this directly after recording the end of hobby vlog number 10, so I think it's probably a week or 2 weeks between you seeing these videos, but it might well be a minute between them or so if you've just followed on to the next one. So I'm going to do a bit of a recap. My intro to this I think is going to sound remarkably like my outro to the previous video, but I'm gonna do it. So this is part 3 of my Dale hobby vlogs. In the first part we set out the plan, the fact that we needed them for doubles, and started work on them. It was very successful. And then in the second part we kind of focused on a single day largely and tried to kind of follow that day through and smash them out. And it was really successful. And I finished the dudes off. And I'm really happy with them. So I've now got 9 Dale Warriors completely finished and painted, and I'm really happy with them. I like the colour scheme, and that's really quite exciting. But of course, now what I need to do is the second half, and the second half currently looks like this, which you'll remember from the last vlog because that was literally recorded seconds ago. But this is the state of my second batch of Dale Warriors at the moment. I wanted to show this off in a kind of, there's no camera trickery here. Alright, this is what they look like. I haven't sneakily managed to do some work on them in the hours in between or something. But yeah, so this is 8 Dale Knights, Brand and Bard. As I said in the previous video, it took me 17 days to paint the 9 guys, and now I've got 14 days to paint 10 guys. That's not good numbers. That's not good numbers. In addition, I think these guys are more complicated. They've all got shields, and the shields take a long time because they've got tons of these. If you're not familiar with a Dale shield, check out. Where is he? That in? What about the second one now? I think the second one's in focus. Check out that detail on those. Crazy, man. Lots of detailing on that. And I've got 2 heroes, and of course you want your heroes to look great. Like Bard in particular, who's an amazing model. Look at that model. That is so good. Beautiful sculpt. But he's got loads of detail on it. He's got loads of little fur tassels and stuff. Which is going to be annoying. The rest of them, let's try and focus on the good. They don't have fur. The fur stage took me ages on the Warriors, but they don't have fur around their wrists or around their boots, which is good. On the other hand, they've got bloody details on their cloak trim. The cloak trims took me ages on the last one, and these guys have got little like cross stitching on them, which is making me feel quite ill. So that was quite funny. I was talking about feeling ill looking at these, and my camera died, presumably because it was feeling ill itself. So yeah, looking at the trim on these guys' cloaks makes me feel a bit sick. So I think, will they take longer? They're probably gonna take longer because of the shields and the cloak trim, despite the lack of fur. I would think that would be my guess. Whether or not that's true, we'll have to wait and see. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna get stuck into these and try and do it. I really want them to do it, but there's another caveat on this, that over the next 2 weeks, as I record this, doubles in 2 weeks, and Ardacon is in about 4 weeks. And at Ardacon, we're launching SPG issue 12. Now, I would dearly love this to be SPG issue 12, but this is SPG issue 11. And SPG issue 12 is not finished, and if I'm honest, it's not nearly finished. And we have to submit that to the printers about a week and a half before the event, which means we've got 2.5 weeks to finish this and 2 weeks to finish these. I would genuinely struggle between family life and work to do either of these things in that period. Trying to do both seems mad. So this vlog, we are very much in stress. Damian probably can't complete a project, but somehow might pull it out of the bag land. That's where we are. So we'll see how it gets on. I'm looking forward to painting these. In a perfect world, I'd be doing these in 2 batches. There's no way I'd paint 10 models like this. But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a crazy world where people get angry about all sorts of things. But who knows what that's about. But yeah, I don't know. Am I hopeful? I don't know. I don't know if I would go so far as being hopeful. But I want to get them done. So I'm going to try and motivate myself through this. So this is going to be a kind of fairly standard vlog where I might check in every few days to show you a kind of little update on. You might have also seen these in a stream. I'm streaming tomorrow night. I think it's the 16th, isn't it? Saturday 16th, and I'll probably be doing the base coats on them then. But this is the day before that, obviously. So you can look out for kind of seeing them get started maybe tomorrow. It's an awful lot to ask, but there's no way I'll do it actually. But in a perfect world, if I could get them base coated and shaded tomorrow, that would be a good start. But I don't think I'll get that done on the stream. But yeah, that's where we are. Really excited, really want them to be good, but very, very much worried about the impending deadline. But by the time you see this, one way or the other, it'll be done. So I wonder how it was. How's the future? Let's get stuck in to Project Dale Batch 2. Okay, so it's time for a little update. As you can hopefully see, even from that top-down view, all my Dale guys are now base coated. So I'm about to start the shading process. But before I do that, I just wanted to give you, for lack of a better word, rather than just showing you what I do, I want to give you a tip. I don't often do a lot of tips on these because I don't think I'm a particularly good painter or someone you should aspire to. But I found this interesting, and I just wanted to show you something that might hopefully work as an inspiration. I've got here my completed Dale guy. That you've seen before. I'm very happy with this. As I said, I think it's good. This is as far as warriors go, I think this is painted to the best of my ability. You know, I might go a little further for a hero, but for a warrior that you're going to paint 40 of, this is about as far as I go, and I think it will look great on the tabletop, and I'm really happy with him. So this is the results that you end up with. Now, I'm not for a second saying I'm a good painter. I'm happy with the results I get. I'm better than some, and I'm worse than many more. But I think this is a good result. And what I kind of want to show on this is the state that things are in to get to that result. Because you hear an awful lot about being neat and about base coats and the importance of base coats. And I just wanted to show that this is exactly the same colour scheme at the finished base coat stage. So this is what I work with. Okay, so you can see you know the colours. It's the Doomball brown on the cloak. It's Steel Legion drab on the cloak trim. And on the trousers, it's Dryad bark on the brown areas, Castellax bronze on the kind of gold areas that will be gold, and Cadian flesh tone in the for the skin, and lead belcher for all the silver areas. And I just want to show you that this is me when I've finished base coating. And can you see, particularly look here on the shoulders, can you see there's loads of those top two flaps should all be Doomball brown, which I did first, and you can see all the Steel Legion drab has been kind of sploshed onto them while I was doing the brown, because I don't really take my time. We've got some Steel Legion drab here on the gauntlet. You can see here the Cadian flesh tone's got onto the helmet, and so on and so forth. And around the back here, you can see the Steel Legion drab has got all over the red cloak there. And on the red cloak inside here, you can see a whole selection of colours has ended up on it. I start with the red, if that wasn't obvious. So what I kind of wanted to show here is how messy my base coats are. Okay, that's me at the base coated stage, and I always think I have to keep the faith on this, because I always think, God, that looks awful, that looks absolutely dreadful. And what I do on these models, and it changes from time to time, the only colour I clean up is the red. So if I now show you the next model here, this is exactly the same, but all I've done after kind of finishing my base coats is I've gone back to the red, the Doomball brown, and hopefully you can now see, if you look at the shoulders, and obviously a lunatic cynic amongst you will say these are a different model, this one was never messy, but I promise you they're about the same. I've just gone in with Doomball brown around that cloak trim and just tidied it up around the shoulders, tidied it up around inside the cloak like that, and tidied it up around the shoulders here. Any other mistakes I ignore. So you can see there's some little chainmail getting some little lead belcher here getting onto the brown jacket, for example. There's probably some flesh still in the helmet, so on and so forth. The Doomball, the Steel Legion drab here has gone over the metal kind of trim piece, the holding piece, and so on. And can you hopefully see that this doesn't look very good, is essentially my point. At this point, you know, these base coats aren't particularly neat by any means, but that would be where I'd get to, and then I chuck the wash over it. And here is the model after I put the washes over it, the Agrax, you know, primarily Agrax Earthshade, but as we often call it, Liquid Talent. And suddenly, what it basically does is make all of those mistakes go away. So I've been a little more careful with the washes on this one, because I am trying to make them look good. And I've used, I think it's 5. I used Reichland Flesh Shade on the skin,
I use Carroburg Crimson on the cloak. I use Nuln Oil on the silver metal areas. I use Seraphim Sepia on the cloak trim, and then I used Agrax Earthshade on everything else. So I have kind of tried to tonally change up the shades we'll be using, and that's what I did on the previous Dale Warriors, and I think it worked really well. But I can't see any of those mistakes anymore. You know, this one again was painted exactly the same, but suddenly those shades cover up an awful lot of the issues. Suddenly anything inside the helmet there, you know, looks fine, and I just want to. I just kind of want to use that as a little bit of, I don't know, is inspiration the right word? But don't be put off. If we look at these two, we'll try and focus on both. Don't be put off if your base coats are particularly messy, because using shades and the highlighting stage, you can basically use the highlighting stage to tidy up your mistakes, I think is what I'm saying, rather than worrying particularly about getting it spot on the first time. And that's kind of how I work. It's certainly how I work for these guys. So that's the shaded stage of how they look once they're base coated. And I've said this before, but this to me is them undercoated. Now I hate everything up to this stage. It's just boring and it feels like you're not achieving much. And then once you push on from here, that's when you start to bring them to life. So that's where they are, and I hope that's kind of useful to kind of go that, you know, if you too think that this is a nice result, there's nothing wrong with your base coats looking like this. Is kind of my point. I hope that's in some way kind of useful, and you know, if you're struggling to get base coats down quickly and neatly, maybe it doesn't matter too much. All right, cool. All right, here we go. It is update time. I'm going to show you where the models are now, and then talk a bit more about where we are in the context of the project in a separate clip. I'm going to cut away to my face, but for now I just want to show you where the models are, because we are at a very kind of important stage in the process, in that every element of these models has now had at least one highlight done. So last time I saw you, they'd just been shaded. They'd all been base coated and shaded, or they'd been base coated and they were about to be shaded. So that is, roughly speaking, about 4 or 5 hours into the process. And now, since then, every element has had another highlight done, and we're about 15 hours into the process. So let's have a look at how they stand now. This is how my Knights of Day are looking now. Now, we like my cloaks, don't we? But these cloaks currently look rubbish because they've only had one of their layers. But let's just rush through what we've done then as part of this highlight. So we start off, the chainmail, and you can see hanging down by his legs, was dry brushed with Ironbreaker. And then at the same time, anything silver was painted, and there's not too much silver on it. It was basically the spear tips here. And the shields were dry brushed with Ironbreaker as well, and that's really important. I want to make sure I show you the shields, because I'll be talking a little bit more about the shields and the future of the shields in the next clip. So that's the effect of just the base coats and then being dry brushed by Ironbreaker on the shields. Then I did some work on the skin. So you can see his eyes. His eyes are pretty good. That's come out alright. So I did the eyes with just Pallid Witch Flesh for white and Abaddon Black for black, and then a highlight of Cadian Flesh Tone. I'll show you another guy. Hopefully his eyes probably won't be as good, but there you go. You can see this one's got a tash, which is quite cool. They're lovely little faces. So that was skin. Again, only the first level. I didn't do the other level, but more on that in a minute. Then the trousers and the sleeves have been painted Steel Legion Drab. One level of highlight there. The cloaks have been given a highlight of Mephiston Red. Just one of their highlight levels. Oh, and I skipped ahead because I did more dry brushing. The cloak trim, which I went through this quite painful process with the Dale Warriors of painting them XV88, then Baylor Brown, then Xandri Dust. That's all been done, but you look at this detail. I was like, there is no way on 8 models I am painting all that detail 4 times, essentially. So what I've done is dry brushed the first 3 layers. So this cloak trim was dry brushed XV88, then Baylor Brown, then Xandri Dust to get to that point. And then I've saved the Ashabti Bone highlight, and I'm going to paint the Ashabti Bone in by hand. And so I'm pretty pleased with how that looks. I don't think it looks particularly dry brushed, and hopefully when I go over the top of Ashabti Bone, that'll just really make it pop. But that was done kind of ahead of the process. I did the cloak trim last, almost last on the Dale Warriors, but I had to do it much faster, much sooner on these guys, because I was dry brushing it. So that's what went on with that. I haven't done anything else with the shields. The tassels, and on here we've got extra tassels. We've got tassels hanging off the belt and then tassels hanging off the spear. They were all painted in with Baneblade Brown. And then the armour was painted in exactly the same way. So if we look at the greaves, the inside panels, which are leather, were painted with Doomball Brown. And then the gold trim, you can see it there, was painted with, I'm having trouble focusing, Liberator Gold. So again, the helmets, Doomball Brown for the leather, and Liberator Gold, which is a really nice gold for the kind of edging on it, like that. Same here on the gauntlets. And there is also bonus cloak trim on these guys. Everyone will be excited to know that the detail keeps coming. You can see there the kind of there's extra cloak trim that's hanging around there, just around the chainmail there. And so I painted that in exactly the same as this cloak trim. So that was Baylor Brown. I don't know that, I've honestly forgotten. Has that had... so it was XV88, and then it might have had Baylor Brown as well already. I've actually lost track of that. I think it's just XV88 that's had for the cloak trim there. And there's also a bit of bonus trim, such detail around these leather shoulder pads. You can see there again, Doomball Brown shoulder pads with XV88 cloak trim. So much detail. So that's that. I've also, the jackets have had their base coat of Doomball Brown painted back in. I'm just looking down my list. The scabbards of all things I've actually had too. The scabbards were painted Gawthor Brown, and then have had a highlight, or a shade as I should say, of Dryad Bark. The shafts, the spear shafts have all been painted Rhinox Hide, and then everything else, which is basically brown areas, has been painted with Dryad Bark. So the boots, there's some straps just in there behind the boot. The straps holding up the gauntlets on the arms there, Dryad Bark, and there's just, and then the straps on the shield and those kind of things. Just a few other bits like that that have been painted in. So that is where they are, and I think that's everything. So that gives you an idea of what's been going on. I will also show you the heroes. They're at the same stage. Here's Brand. It's looking cool. I'm trying to be a little more careful with the heroes, because if I've got time to make anything work, I'm going to make the heroes work. You'll notice that Brand's shield is being painted. So this is just the dry brush stage. But with Brand's shield, I've painted the trim in Liberator Gold. I've painted the back leather panel in Doomball Brown. I've painted the edge of the shield in Runefang Steel. He's obviously had a little bespoke bit of hair highlighting, because he's got he's grey haired. He's a very different model. He's wearing very different gear to all the others, so I've had to be doing him slightly differently, but I'm just trying to keep the colour scheme the same. Lovely model. And then my favourite model in the army, and he's going up there as one of my favourite models in the range. This stunning model of Prince Brand is very, very close to the knights, but he's like a complicated knight as befits a hero. So I'm pleased with going in there. I'm pleased with his eyes. I think he looks quite good. You can see here he's got everything the knights has got, but he's also got like bonus fur in between the chainmail and the leather, bonus fur around his greaves and around his gauntlet. So that's all out of Doomball Brown thing. And his fur has been dry brushed in exactly the same way as the fur around the cloak, which is different, has been dry brushed in the same way as the as on the Knights of Dale. So he's in exactly the same place. So they're all in about the same position. One extra bonus I did on this one, just as I was pushing his shield forward, one of the points I do with my shields, my normal Dale shields, I've got one here. Can I scoop this up? This is the shield I painted for the banner. So this was the finished effect the first time round. And you can see I think his one's pretty much finished now. But what I do is I paint Carroburg Crimson into the recesses. Something like Brand shield, he's got a large open expanse, so you can paint it with leather, so I did that properly. But when you've only got these kind of really thin edges, I still wanted it to have that kind of leather appearance and that red hue, so I painted Carroburg Crimson into the recesses, and I've now done that on Bard's shield as well. Carroburg Crimson into the recesses, and Liberator Gold on the gold areas, and Runefang Steel around the side. And for the first time, I haven't done this on any others yet, I painted Carabao Crimson very lightly on the inside of the shield. So we're just going to have a look at the inside of one shield. Where's one of the guys with his shield down? That will help. That's what it kind of looks like after the wash and base coat stage. And I kind of want to, most of these guys, if you look at them, their shields are so unimportant, the insides. Can you see that? Like, it's really close to his body. You're not going to see a lot of it. I don't want to be painting wood grain on. But I did just wonder if just a light glazing of Carabao Crimson, which I'll upon here, just kind of brings that red hue in, because they've got so much of this kind of red hue going throughout everything, the kind of red leather and the red armour and the kind of red clothing and all that. I just wonder if we could bring that in, and I quite like it. So I think that's what I'm going to add that to my kind of Dale recipe of a little Carabao Crimson, just to kind of almost neaten up the shields, and I think I'll call that a day there. So yeah, those are my two heroes, which I'm really pleased with how they're looking. I think they're coming out nicely. I just wish I had a little more time to be working on them. But there we go. All the models are at the one highlight stage, and what I'm now going to do is kind of, as I said, spin the camera around and chat about a bit about where we are in our timeline to hopefully, I don't know, set up whether or not it's going well. So there we go. That's where the Dale Warriors are. Every area has had one highlight done to them, and we are now about 15 hours into the process. So I've done about 10 hours of painting since the last clip, essentially. And as I said, every area has had one highlight done. Now, if you remember the last hobby vlog, I think it was the I can't remember whether it was the Dale Project one or if it was the Dale in a Day one. But I said I made a point of saying that I wanted to finish an area at night, because I was batch painting. I was like, I'm going to finish the cloaks tonight and then just paint an area completely and paint an area completely. And I did really enjoy that. I've decided not to do that this time because I don't think I'm going to get them done in time. So because I was worried about that, I decided to try and paint smartly and paint and make sure they could be on the table at Warhammer World, even if they're not completely finished. Now, I really want them to be completely finished, and there's still a teeny chance of that. But that was my thinking, that what I actually should do this time around is make sure that every area gets a highlight. So now you can't see any of the shades anywhere, essentially. Everything's had that one highlight. So I can now, I don't want to say relax, but I now know that army is coming to Warhammer World. These guys look fine. These are kind of painted to the level that my Battle Games of Middle-earth models are painted, like the ones I've been speed painting, my Minas Tirith Warriors and the Orcs and all that. They're painted to about that level. And they're, to be honest, they're painted a bit better than that. But that means they'll be fine. They could be finished. If 10 years ago these would have been finished for me. But I'm obviously going to try them a bit, paint them a bit better than that now. But that's really encouraging for me. So what that means is that the way I see it is now I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be alright. I'm going to have an army. But now it's just a case of I don't just want an army. What I want is a finished army, and I want it all to be looking as good as the first batch. So as I said, we're 15 hours in. I don't know if I mentioned this when I started recording this one, but in Dale in a Day I listened to the Hobbit audiobook because it was the right amount of time. It was about 11 hours long. And when I realised that my recipe for Dale Warriors was 23 hours, and that's how long it took me, about 23 hours to paint the plastic Dale Warriors. The Andy Serkis's Fellowship of the Ring audiobook is 23 hours long. What? So whilst I can't do it in a day, I'm listening to that and really enjoying that and using it in the same motivation. So I'm only listening to that audiobook when I'm painting my Dale guys. And I'm using that as a way of tracking how far into the process I am. And I am now, I've just reached book 2, so they've just got to Rivendell. It's very exciting. We're at the Council of Elrond. And I am 15 hours in. There's one tiny caveat on that on Sunday night I was painting and Lockie went live and did his live streams. I was like, oh, well, I'll watch that, that'll be handy. And so there's 2 hours, I've been painting for 2 hours, 40 minutes longer than my audiobook. But I'm about, I'm just over, just over 12 hours into the audiobook. So that's 15 hours into the project. So 15 hours of painting in, and everything has been base coated, shaded, and given at least one highlight. As you've seen, some areas have had a little more attention than that in terms of the flesh. But if this is in any way true, my Dale Warriors took, I think it says at the bottom, estimated total 23 hours. That was for 9 models. These guys are more complicated, and there's 10. But I'm hoping it's not that much more. But I was estimating it'd be about, let's say about 23 hours, just for the sake of argument. So 15 hours in,
that means I've got at least 8 hours to go. And looking at these guys, I do have at least 8 hours to go, I reckon. So I'm going to go through what I still need to do. To completely finish them, the skin will be given another highlight of Kislev Fesh and then shaded with Bugman's Glow. The trousers and sleeves would be another highlight of Xandridas. The cloaks get 2 more layers, a highlight of Wazduck Red and a shade of Corn Red. The shields then need to be completely painted. I'll come back to that in a minute. The tassels get another highlight of, I didn't actually write that down, I think it's the flayed one flesh, possibly. The armour needs to have its leather inserts washed with Guilliman flesh. That's the red bits, and then the gold glazed with Seraphim sepia. The fur needs to be completely painted. I didn't actually show you that when I was doing it, but there's no way that's going to focus. But the fur areas, so the crest, the head crest, and the fur around the shoulder pads, I haven't touched since I shaded it. It's the only area that I thought looked acceptable. You might want to go back and have a look at all the close-ups I showed you, but I didn't mention it. It would look acceptable on the table as it was, like the base and shade. So that hasn't had a single highlight yet. So that's 3 layers: Corvus Black, Storm Vermin Fur, and Rakarth Flesh. There's then 3 highlights on the jackets: Bugman's Glow, Rhinox Hide, and Doomball Brown. The scabbards then get a highlight with Banebay Brown, but that won't take any time at all. And then the cloak trim gets tidied up with a Shabti Bone. So those are the bits that are left. Now that's as I was saying it. I think I said just a few seconds ago. I think they're more than 8 hours away. That feels like more than 8 hours away to be honest. All those steps. But one thing, what I've started to do is when planning this out, I've started to think, what are the? Let's assume we don't get finished. I haven't actually told you the day, have I? I haven't told you the day. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday the 26th. Tuesday the 26th of July. So doubles is this weekend. So I'll be leaving on the Friday. So there's a slim chance maybe of Friday afternoon some painting time, but not really. That'll be packing up. I'd rather not be. So I've basically got 3 evenings. I've got Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday night. And me and Emma are out on Thursday. We're going to Dirty Dancing Secret Cinema. So that'll be out for the evening and probably alcohol. I don't really know. But it might involve alcohol, which means there's no way of getting home and doing late night painting potentially. So I've got at least 2 evenings ahead of me, maybe a bit more time, but not much time at all, really. Not much time at all between now and doubles. And so I'm assuming that if we're saying I'm at least 8 hours away, I'm sort of assuming, maybe more, I'm assuming I'm not going to get them finished. So instead, what I've started trying to prioritise is which are the bits that I have to paint to make them look as good as they can be on the table. What are the bits where I get the most impact from a distance, essentially, so that I don't let which bits can I hide that they haven't been painted is kind of what I'm going for, because I'm really happy with my other 9 Dale guys. Adam's painted his arms from scratch. We've got bases to make everything match. So I think it will look like a really nice force, and I'd rather not let the side down. And so what I've currently got, I know what I'm going to do next, and that is finishing the cloaks. Imagine there's a Dale Knight. When you see him on the table, he's probably facing the enemy. Most of what you see is cloak. Yeah, so I'm going to be painting. I'm quite happy with the cloak trim that I showed you at the moment. I don't think I'll be doing the Shabti Bone highlight on that, but I'm going to finish the cloaks. That's 2 layers. So that's the 2 more reds that go down, and then I'm going to finish the armour. The gold at the moment is very bright, and knocking it back a bit with the Seraphim sepia really helps. And then also the Guilliman flesh on the leather has to be done before that. So those are my next 4 kind of layers. And because they're quite big layers and complicated layers over it, that's probably about 4 hours, I'm thinking. So that's even incredibly optimistically tonight. So then you start to think, so what aren't I going to do? I'm probably not going to do another highlight on the tassels. I'm probably not going to do another highlight on the face. I think they look fine as they are. And the big thing I've decided, and this is risky, is I'm not going to do the shields. You can see that Bard and Brand shields have been worked on, but these guys that I showed you with the dry brush shield, and I kind of made a point of highlighting them, I'm going to leave these as they are because I kind of think they look alright. And not only do I think they look alright, and this is the sort of bit that might come back to bite me in the arse, but actually if you look at the Warriors of Dale on the Games Workshop website, they kind of look like that. Now I have no doubt that they're painted better than that, but you see what I mean? They're just kind of red in the background with kind of silver highlights. And if you look at one of mine, kind of red in the background,
silver highlights. Now, that's not how I want to finish them. I'm obviously going to paint them properly. And the Knights of Dale on the Forger website actually have them painted with the gold trim. But actually, that's the sort of thing that, all I'm saying is, I think if you saw that, you could think they were finished. Someone could leave them like that. And so I think I'm going to leave those bits, because also the shields take a bloody long time. All 8 of these guys have got these complicated shields, and it would take a long time to do. So I'm not going to do the shields. I'm not going to do those extra flesh highlights, not going to do the tassels. And I think that's then when we get into that's then the crux of it, really. That I know what I'm not going to do, and I know what I am going to do. So I'm going to do the armour, I'm going to do the cloaks, probably not going to do the flesh, probably not going to do the shields. And then everything else is in that kind of middle ground where I'll just see where I am, and that'll bound to be tomorrow sometime. Hopefully I'll have a good painting session tonight. And I'll be looking and sort of seeing, okay, so we've got some trials left on the highlights, we've got some trials left on the tassels, we've got some highlights left on the fur and the jackets, and the scabbards, and the cloak trim. And it will basically just be kind of looking, right, how much time have I got? Right, let's do one more quick pop. Because I think the jackets I might leave entirely, because as memory serves, the jackets only work once I do all 3 highlights. Like my first Bugman's Glow highlight over Doombull Brown is very, very poppy. It doesn't look great, and it needs the other ones to like knock it back. So I'm almost tempted to not touch them at all, and instead do a quick extra highlight on the tassels or a quick extra highlight on the belts or something like that. So that's kind of where I am at the moment on Tuesday night. I'm happy. I genuinely think I am happy. Like I think it's probably further along than I thought it would be, in all honesty. I still need time to take them off these bases and glue them onto the bases, which I'm not ignoring, but that will probably be Thursday afternoon, I think. But yeah, that's where we are at the moment. 15 hours in, and I know my next 4 colours, so it's going to be 2. I'm probably going to alternate. I think I'll do a layer of highlights on the cloaks, the kind of Guilliman flesh on the armour, another layer of highlights on the cloaks, and then the Seraphim Sepia on the armour, and then we'll see how we're looking and try and push forwards. The other project, of course, what I did set up was that I set this up at the start, that we are working with the reason I can't dedicate all my time to this is because we are currently working on issue 12 of SBG, and check it out, oh, it's here now. At the moment I can't reveal the cover. As I sit here on 26th of July, I can't reveal the cover, but you're going to be seeing this after we've revealed the cover. So here's the cover. Oh yeah, check it out. This is the test copy that arrived of our glorious, hopefully glorious, Fellowship of the Ring Minds of Moria cover, which we're really chuffed with. So what I'm pleased to say is, whilst things on here aren't going great, I'm not looking like I'll finish the Dale Warriors. It is looking like we might finish this. We've done a lot of work on this, and so the reason maybe the Dale Warriors are slightly further behind than they could be is because we spent so much time on this. There's still some worries. Check out our editorial on the test copy. That's pretty good. Be stuff to it. The test copy. The test copy editorial literally says 20 years, bloody hell. Harry submitted his article in September 2020. But that's been kind of made more verbose at this point. If I go and show you my article, you will see that it contains an awful lot of Latin text at the moment. And again, if I take you to the battle reports at the end, the last 2 battle reports, you'll see that there's an awful lot of Latin text, Latin placeholder text in here. So there was still a long way to go, but we're really happy with this. I know you probably would have seen this, but check that out. Oh, the centre spread's awesome. Dave's Argonath, and then we've kind of like added in this kind of whole white area, like the poster, where it can kind of get this white light. We've got the mountains and the water. Pleased with that. But yeah, I suppose that could be a spoiler, because I guess you might not have your copy by now. You might be seeing this before Ardacon, actually. Was that just a huge... That might be a massive spoiler, the inside. God, who knows. Yeah, I might have to cut all those bits out. But we're pleased with the progress on this. So we've done loads and loads of work on this, and I do now believe the deadline for this is 8 days away. Deadline for this is Wednesday night. We've got to submit it Thursday morning, and it's Tuesday today, so yeah, 8 days away. And I do feel like this will now be finished on time, but it's still, I mean, I can't stress enough, this still needs hours and hours and hours of work put into it.
So yeah, what I'm pleased about is that whilst I might not get these completely finished, I haven't wasted time. All my time's kind of gone into this. So yeah, in all honesty, there we go. I know this is a long and rambling update, but I believe you people like these long and rambling hobby vlogs, and panicking about whether or not I'll get things done. But yeah, that's where we are. I'm quite excited. I'm enjoying the process. I am still enjoying painting these guys, and I'm looking forward to another long session tonight, where I'll try and get some more work on the cloaks and armour, and then try and figure out a plan forward. So I expect the next time you see them will be the state that they're going to doubles in on either Thursday night or Friday morning, hopefully on their bases, but probably not finished. So we'll wait and see, and I'll see you there. Okay, so it's update time, and here we are. It is Friday morning, and I'm about to head off to the tournament, and this is as far as we got. There's kind of good news and there's bad news, really. First things first, let's just have a look. We can see that the models are now on their wonderful bases. They've been sent to me by Mr. Antroke. So he made these for us. They're wonderful, and he posted them down to me. And I've glued all my models onto them. So now I spent about an hour cutting them off their bases for painting, gluing them onto these wonderful bases, and also touching up the feet just with a bit of dried bark. Adam's army's going to be on these as well. His dwarves are going to be on these, so hopefully it will tie the whole force together really nicely. That was one step. And then how far did we get? Well, we got kind of, I think, as far as I said I would. So we didn't miss out on anything, but we didn't get any further. So that meant I did the red on the cloaks. So the cloaks have now had 2 more layers of red done, so the cloaks are now effectively finished, except for the trim, which needs 1 more highlight. And I did the armour, which is the Guilliman flesh wash in the recesses on the leather panels. So I quite like it here on the shoulder pads. I think it gives it quite a kind of leathery feel to it. This kind of a slight glare on it, or glare's not the right word, but slight sheen on it, which is what I wanted. And then I also applied this sepia, Seraphim sepia, wash to the gold to just knock that back a bit. So that's all over the place. You can see it there on the greaves, on the gauntlets, on the detailing in here. And I think the helmet probably shows it off the best, the kind of combination of the red leather and the Seraphim sepia. So there's a potential, I think, maybe to do a slight highlight on some of these red areas that weren't on the Warriors of Dale. So the Warriors of Dale had the greaves and they had the gauntlets, but they didn't have these helmets and these shoulder pads. I just wonder if maybe a kind of Bugman's Glow highlight down that kind of nose piece, and perhaps along the back might be nice. But that's for another day. But that's as far as we got. So last time I recorded, I said that's what I was going to hopefully do. 4 colours, which were the 2 reds, the Guilliman Flesh and the Seraphim Sepia, and I managed that, but I didn't manage anything else. So we've gone big on SPG this week. I spent a lot of Wednesday night, I think it was, laying out our final battle report, and I just couldn't. That had to be done by a certain point, and I just couldn't go any further with these guys. So they look fine. They look all right. I think most people might see these and think they were finished, for example, but they're not. They're not fully finished, and there are more layers to go. But this is the level that I'm taking them to the tournament. I think I talked through in some detail with you in the last clip exactly how many layers and stuff I had to do. But suffice to say, I think I'm about 8 hours away from completion. That gives you just an idea of what they're looking like now and what they'll be looking like at Warhammer World. So, how do I feel? It's a mixture. I'm pleased that they're in a state that I can take them to Warhammer World, but I'm annoyed that they're not fully finished. I hate taking. As soon as I feel like I paint the rims, I feel like models are done, and I hate taking kind of part finished models to tournaments and then coming back and having to touch them up. I just really don't like it. But there's nothing to be done for it now. They are finished, and so the vlog won't end here. I'm going to come back and do one of those, as I have done for the last kind of 2 events I went to. I might do a little bit of a tournament wrap up about how the guys got on, and then I will come back and finish these guys in the next week or so and finish off the vlog there. So yeah. Yeah, mixed success, but mustn't grumble. Onwards to Warhammer World!
Then darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time. The stars wheeled overhead, and every day was as long as the life age of the earth. But it was not the end of the vlog, and I felt Dale in me again.
So, time has passed. This is one of those weird things about recording YouTube videos where you're going to see that clip of those models seconds ago, and we were heading off to doubles. I'm very, very excited, if a bit disappointed they weren't quite finished. That, I believe, was recorded on the 29th of July. It is now, are you ready for it, the 16th of October. Oh yes, in the last few seconds, 2.5 months have passed. And I am back at my Dale nights now. This warrants a little bit of explanation. So what basically happens, we went off to doubles, had a great time with Adam. I believe, it's really hard to remember that, about a week after that we had Ardacon, so I think I was working on SPG issue 12 in the lead up to that. The same nights in the same state went off to Ardacon to play doubles with Tom, more on that in a minute. And then after that, I think we were preparing for the Warhammer World Teams event, and I think that's the end of my kind of exciting nerding things. But basically, I had some family holiday and stuff, and basically a bunch of other events. Oh no, sorry, we had the B-side meetup as well. That was the third one, and I had all my hobby time that I had to go on these other kind of tasks. So you've seen the evidence of some of those, and you'll see some more bizarrely in the next vlog. But things like I had to paint the 8 Prowlers for Mark for Teams. Didn't have to. I had to paint the 4 Spearmen and Gilgalad for the B-side meetup. I then went on and painted that extra elf and the banner bearer and so on and so forth. I've also painted some Osgiliath vets, finished those off, which you're going to see in the next vlog. And so I just kept having all these little projects that were getting in the way of the Dale nights of finishing them off. And the Dale nights have been doing my head in. I think I said on one of the early clips, I honestly apologise because I haven't reviewed the footage, it was 2.5 months ago. I think I said that I really hate finishing models and taking them to events and then having to come back and do them. And that's exactly what happened. I took these Dale Knights and the Heroes to 2 events and used them. And for me, psychologically, trying to convince myself then that they need to be worked on is really, really hard. So as it is, whilst I've been enjoying working on other projects, these Dale Knights have been sat on their kind of painting handles for 2.5 months, just kind of leering at me. And it's not really a hobby funk in the sense that I didn't want to paint them. I did have other things that had to keep jumping the queue, but something's got to be done about it. Now, before that, I will say a brief update about our exploits at the events. I'm not going to go. I have no interest in going game by game, but just to fill you in, that we use at 2 events now. I use the doubles. Doubles with Adam at Warhammer World Doubles and doubles with Tom at Ardacon. We use the same thing. We use the Defenders of Erebor, is it? The Dale and Iron Hills Alliance. And it was a lot of fun. I had real good fun on both events, but it's a dreadful legion to play doubles with because it's one of the legions that gets all its benefits from being close to models, you know, re-rolling 1s within 1 inch, and if Dane and Bard are within 3 inches, they get heroic combat or whatever. And the doubles scenario split them up. So across the course of those 8 games I think I played with Adam and Tom, what you basically had is my partner using an Iron Hills army over here and me using a Dale army over here. And this Dale army is slightly worse than the normal Legendary Legion. So while the rule for all the named heroes being banners is cool, if you're playing a double scenario, it's a dreadful Legion stake. It's like taking the, the Lurtz's, Uglet Scouts or the Kirith Ungol Legion to doubles, because the fact that your armies get split up most of the time just wrecks it. So yeah, I wasn't that impressed with it competitively in a doubles environment for those reasons, but I had such a blast. It was great. Adam was great to play with as always. We had a lot of fun, normally with the dwarf stuck in the middle and the Dale trying to get to that rescue. It worked sometimes, didn't work other times. And then I had a lot of fun doing exactly the same thing with Tom, including one game, which I think has now gone down in infamy, where I got wiped out within a few turns and fell asleep at the table, entirely accidentally. Apologies to my opponent. And then Tom used his half of the army to beat the entire other army and get us a win. Quite a remarkable scenes from Harriswood. So it was tons of fun. I really enjoyed it. But that already feels like forever ago, because that was, what, the 10th of August? So that's over 2 months ago that we played the last doubles games. So these guys have been doing nothing since then. But I have to sort them out now. I'm not starting my next thing until they've finished. So the real irony in this being that I don't think there's a lot to do on them, like relatively speaking. I did really well in the lead up and nearly got them finished, as I believe the last clip might have told you exactly kind of where they were and what they needed doing. So I'm going to hopefully give myself a week to do this. As I said, it's Sunday night at the moment. It's about the 16th, I think it is. But I'm going to try and give myself this week to finish them. And my hope is that that's a few evenings work on the nights, finishing off the last layers on the nights, and then maybe kind of spending an extra evening or something on each of the heroes to kind of finish those off. That's the goal and that's the plan. Hopefully I'll get them finished off in a week and finally done. And the frustrating thing is I'm pretty sure they don't need a lot of work. You know, that it's one of those things that it's probably going to irritate me how quickly I do finish them. Is the hope. I just have to get them done. I was listening to the Fellowship of the Ring. I remember making a big deal of that because I did the Hobbit, which took the length of time to paint the Dale guys in the day, and then I was doing Fellowship of the Ring for these guys. I've got 4 hours left on my Fellowship audiobook, which means I've been painting for, I say it was 24 hours, that 20 hours or something. So that should mean we've got about 4 hours left or something, but I'm going to be utterly honest, I've completely lost track of that. Over the last few months, I think I ended up watching some YouTube videos while I painted them, so I'm no longer using that as a reliable barometer of how much progress I've made. But my hope is that I can still use finish listening to Fellowship of the Ring while painting them this week, because I said I've got 4 hours left on that. But I won't be able to in any way usefully tell you how much time this project's taken, because there's been a 2.5 month gap between this clip and the last clip. So there we go. There's a little update. It's very frustrating. These guys have been annoying me for months, just being moved around my hobby desk and stuff rather than being able to put away or put on display or something. But this is the week. We're going to start wrapping things up, and my hope is that there'll probably now only be 3 more clips. I'm hoping you're going to see a clip where the knights are finished, and then maybe a separate clip where the heroes are finished, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap things up hopefully in about a week's time, and be able to move on with our lives at long bloody last. So I hope you're still enjoying this, and I'll see you on the other side.
Okay, so it's update time, and I am delighted and relieved to say that the nights are done. So a little bit of context for you, it's a couple of evenings after I recorded that last clip. So I've just been working on them for a few evenings this week, not too much, just a few hours, and they are finished. So let's have a look at them. This is the finished effect. I think you saw them before they went off to Warhammer World, and then since then, it's hard to say exactly, but I'd suggest that every single layer has had at least one more go over it, essentially. So I can't honestly remember, because this vlog, as I've said in the last bit, has been so long in the making, but I can't remember when you last saw them, but hopefully this will be showing you. So the flesh definitely had another highlight, and then a shade. All the fur was painted for the first time, so this head crest and the fur around the shoulders, that was done. You know, I'm not going to go through all the colours because I've talked about them before, and I've talked about them on the other video. But that was the I think Corvus black, and then Rakarth flesh and Pallid Witch flesh, possibly something like that. The tassels were picked out with the flayed on flesh. I think the spears have been touched up a bit. I think the shields have been done. I've talked through the colours for the shields with the Caribou Crimson and shading before, but I think last time you saw them they were just dry brush maybe for Throne of Skulls, but they were all picked out. I think the cloaks were finished for Throne of Skulls. There's been a couple of extra layers on this red armour on the kind of shoulders and helmets, which the Warriors of Dale don't have. I'm not particularly pleased with, if I'm honest. I think also that's the overall thing is there's a few feelings going around my head. One of them is massive relief to finally be calling these guys done, but the other one is definitely a sense of disappointment that I'm not that happy with them. I can't put my finger on it. I have no doubt that a large part of it is how long they've taken to paint and the kind of long drawn out process, but there's a bunch of bits on these that just didn't pop for me in the way they did on the plastic ones on my first batch, and particularly around this new kind of red leather. it just didn't fall right, and I don't think the cloaks look as good either. Possibly, the dry brushing, the trim, except for the final Shabty bone highlight, might have contributed to that, but I don't really see why that would affect the reds. But what can you do? But yeah, so I can't shake the feeling that I'm not happy with them. I remember finishing the Dale Warriors and being just joyously pleased with them, and I thought it'd come out really well, and I'm just not feeling that at all. Now I could obviously keep going with these and try and fix it, but I can't tell you what's wrong with them, so I can't tell you what I don't like about them, so I wouldn't know where to fix it. So I think it's just one of those things where you have to sometimes with this kind of stuff, with kind of creative art and all that kind of thing, you just have to know when to stop and say, do you know what, they're done. Not everything has to be the best thing you've ever painted. Just be happy to complete them and sort of move on to the next thing. And so that's what I'm doing here. Pleased to have them done. And hopefully when I put them alongside the rest of the army, I'll kind of be like, oh, do you know what, they're alright. But yeah, for the moment, I don't know. There's just something I don't like about them. They're the only model I can honestly say, I think ever, that I've painted, and I instantly think maybe at some point in the future I'll buy more of these and have another go. Now I probably won't do that because you know what my backlog's like. But it's very rare that I think as soon as I paint something, oh, I could do better than that. But we'll see. I do have 4 more in the backlog, but for continuity's sake, as and when I get to them, they'll be painted in the same way as these. But yeah, it's just that weird sort of feeling where I just think I could do better than this, I think. But who knows? I think I'm setting very high standards for myself because I want this army to look really, really good. But so that they're clearly demonstrably fine, but I just wanted them to be the best kind of warriors I've done, and I felt like I kind of got there with the Warriors of Dale. I just feel like I haven't with these guys. But yeah, they're fine. They'll do. I'm quite happy, quite pleased with what I did, and the main feeling, as I said, is of huge relief. So they are done. Now, the other thing is, the heroes are not. So here are the current state of our heroes. Here's Bard, who is basically at the same level as those. So he could be done, but needs some tidying up. I'm really furious with the fur. I can't get his fur on his cloak to look good. It's just not working for me. So I'm going to try and kind of I basically want to spend an evening on Bard, just kind of pushing him a bit further, another highlight on every layer and that sort of thing, just to kind of really, really make him pop, particularly because I love this model so much. I'm pretty pleased with how he's coming along, and some bits are inevitably going to be finished, but I just feel like just spending one evening with him when I don't have 10 other models on the painting handles will be a sort of enjoyable way to spend some time and kind of hopefully improve him and really make that kind of main hero model pop. And then the same thing goes from his dad, his Brand, who's in exactly the same position. And again, for whatever reason, I can't. It's a hard thing to think. I'm just not happy with him. I'm not happy with the silver on his armour. I'm not happy with the red on his cloak. And so he's obviously been being painted alongside all the Dale Knights. And again, I just feel like I need an evening just working on him. I don't mind if his colours are slightly different to everyone else's because, he's a hero. But I just want to give him my full undivided attention over a kind of 2 or 3 hour painting block. And I feel like if I could do that, I can then sign off on him. So the Dale Knights are done, but these 2 aren't. But I wanted to show you the state that they're in, because hopefully next time you see them, these 2 will both be done. So that's my hope. Now I did plan to, I'm recording this on a Thursday night and we're away for the weekend. I did plan to have these guys finished by this week for my kind of next project going forward. Can we sneak Bard in? No, it's not worth it. For my next project going forward, I really wanted these guys to be off the table by the end of this week, so we could sort of dramatically and what would the word be? Make the big moment of saying those guys are off the table, but these guys are not off the table. Like I just said, an evening on each of these is 2 evenings out of my painting from next week, which was really meant to be already assigned in something that you'll see in 2 blogs time, essentially. But but what can you do? I've got to spend a little more time on these guys just to really make them pop. But that's what we're doing. I'm away for the weekend, so then hopefully Sunday night and Monday night I can really get some good work done on these guys and finally sign them off. So yeah, hopefully you'll see these soon when they're fully finished and we can sign off this 3-month vlog at last. And I can't quite tell you how relieved to say I am to say that the heroes are done. It's not a couple of evenings later and here we go. So let's have a look. Here is Bard. He was the one I finished first. He took about 2 evenings work all in, so he's had kind of 2 evenings more work put onto him. I can't really tell you what I've done to him beyond the fact that kind of pretty much every part of him has had another layer and another attempt. I think the shield's pretty much the same. Everything else has had another go at him. I'm not sure the lighting in here is getting the colours quite right, but what can we do? I was going to say I'm not really happy with him, if I'm honest. I didn't really enjoy painting him. I really struggled. The fur really annoyed me. The fur will be darker than you remember it doing. I think I ended up washing it back last time. I really didn't enjoy doing the fur here. I didn't enjoy painting it. And then there's little kind of fur trim around the bottom of his coat there and around his boots. And I wasn't too keen on him. I've taken some photos of him and I think he looks awful. But it's one of those things where I think in the hand he looks better. And on here, looking at him through the screen that you're hopefully seeing, he does look better. But I'm not too pleased with him, if I'm honest. For given all the time I put into him, I love it. I absolutely love him as a model. I think it's a brilliant sculpt, but he just wasn't. I didn't enjoy the painting process again, potentially because of the of how long everything took. You know, of the kind of drawn out process. But yeah, there's no kind of real magic answer to what I did here. It was just kind of lots of kind of Baneblade brown and Rakarth flesh kind of highlights mixed into things. Really, just to try and make him pop and really make him stand out. The skin had another kind of few highlights. I think it looks alright here. It doesn't look, there should probably be photos at the end of the video that I don't think it looks very good in, but it does look quite good here. But there we go. I think he's alright. He'll do. But it was a strangely frustrating process, just like it was with the Knights, really. And I am, however, very, very relieved he's done. So there we go. There's Bard. And then Brand, who is a really interesting one, because Brand was the one I thought when I last showed you them was in a much worse state, and I was far less happy with him. But I actually think I've ended up being more pleased with how Brand turned out. He's had a bit more work done than Bard has, because he's in kind of a slightly different outfit to everyone else. So he's had the chainmail has all been kind of washed back and kind of highlighted up again. And he's got some different colours, and I'm actually quite pleased with how a few bits of those came out. I was pleased with his hair, for example, the slightly, hopefully kind of brownish grey that I've put into that, like it's kind of pale brown highlights on grey, which I think worked quite well. And again, I'm quite pleased with how his face looks now, like in the hand, and how it looks here on camera. But as ever, the pictures of misery are always very, very unforgiving. I think the trim worked out quite nice. I spent a bit of time trying to tidy up the trim around here. I thought it was worth it because it was just one. He was a hero. So yeah, actually, do you know what? As much as I felt very, very similar to how I felt about Bard a couple of nights ago with him, and I really, really wasn't happy with him. But I had a good couple of evenings with him. So all told, I think I spent about 3 extra evenings on these guys, together, and they were definitely worth it. I'm glad I pushed them on further, but they definitely, I don't know, maybe they're all right, but they didn't come out as well as I pictured that they might in 3 months ago when I started them, I guess. But it matters not. There they are finished. This second batch of my Dale army is finally finished, and we can relax now. So I'm going to head back over to the chair and kind of debrief on this and see where we're going next.
There we go. It's done. It's over. It's gone. I can taste strawberries again, Sam. That is it. The Dale Knights and their two heroes are finally finished. The models that were painted up in the hope of getting them ready for the doubles tournament at the end of July. We didn't quite make that deadline. It is Sunday, the 29th of October. So yeah, didn't quite make the end of July deadline, tragically. 3 months later. This is a vlog that's been 3 months in the going, but it's done. It's pleased. I do genuinely feel a weight off my mind. I really truly do. It feels like a really good feeling to get them done. As you probably heard me moaning about in the last few clips, I'm not that happy with them, but they are now done, and I can move on to other things. So that is quite a relief. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. This is obviously Dale Part 3. I thought that was going to be it for Dale, for a while at least. But there is going to be a Dale Part 4, not in the next hobby vlog, but in the one after that. So there is going to be a little more Dale. In the immortal words of Frodo, there's room for a little more. And so there will be a little more Dale action coming your way soon. But yeah, I hope that this torrid journey of mine over the last 3 months has seemed alright watching it in a relatively short space of time. We're going to be coming in at the hour mark, I think, but it'll hopefully feel like it was just recorded in about 2 weeks for you. Not the dreadful business that I've had. But there we go. That's all done, and we can start looking forward. So, what is quite exciting is I'm hoping now that there's actually going to be the blog frequency should increase for the next few weeks, and I'm genuinely hopeful that after you see this one, you're going to get another 2 blogs, I think, in the next 2 weeks. So they should be coming thick and fast, and then the next one should be up pretty soon, and that one's going to be looking back on the whole year, well not quite the whole year, the last 6 months that I haven't done in a while, and catching up on how I've been doing with my backlog. What I've been, have I been clearing the backlog, have I been buying more and all that, and kind of updating you on those numbers, which I've just kind of fallen behind on, but more on that to come. So there we go. Dale Knight's done, Brandon Bar done. I finally have a fully painted 400 point Dale army, which I'll be adding to soon. Until then, I hope you enjoy. I hope you're enjoying the content here. I hope you're watching the live streams. Every fortnight we do a live stream where we all hang out for a few hours and paint some models just purely for the fun of it. So check out some of those previous ones down there if you haven't, or get involved in the Facebook page and ask us what the hell that's about if you're new here. Please give the channel a subscribe, and do leave a comment down below, because I do read them all, and it really does mean the world to me, and I try and reply to them all as well. So if you have enjoyed what I've done here, leave us a comment. If you haven't enjoyed what I've done here, leave us a comment. We'll see where we go. Other than that, I will see you next time here on Battle Streams in Middle Earth.